Hello there. This is the introductory to web, and basically we'll be going through the introductory to HTML today. It's quite interesting topic, and I hope you find it informative and educative. So, what's this thing called the web? Well, in plain man's definition, the web is the interaction of various resources such as computers, phones. Right now, we have airplanes, different things that communicate, right? And what we are trying to figure out in this class is how humans interact with it. Basically, we'll be talking about HTML, how to develop for HTML, web application to be specific. There are other ways at it that we can think or build ourselves up, but right now it's going to be talking about full stack development, and we'll be talking about developing for the web, creating user interfaces and stuff like that. So I mentioned earlier full stack development. Well, what it actually entails is that you have the front end, you have the back end, and like everything in between. So basically, as a full stack developer, you get to develop or program, right, computer programming for both front end, back end, for database, data persistence, sessions, basically every other thing that is like in between, right? And what do you need to know as a full stack development for full stack development or as a full stack developer? You really need to know a lot of things, right? You wear various hats, and basically the full stack developer needs to know web technologies, right, such as HTTP, HTTPS, WebSocket DNS, understand client server relationships, what request means, what response means. Also, a full stack developer needs to know a little bit about where data lives, right? Data persistence, such as SQL, right? There are other things, APIs. A full stack developer needs to actually know real programming languages such as PHP, Node.js, C Sharp, Java. And also, a full stack developer needs to know about like the client side languages such as JavaScript, Dart. There is VB script. There are other scripts. There are other languages that actually run on the client side, and also user interface languages, which are actually mockups, something like XAML, HTML, XML, and co. So let's get familiar with the web. So right now, I'll just go and exit out of here quickly while I try to show you what we call the web, right? What we're focused in this class. So usually you interact with the web by opening a web browser, right? And then it says, search or enter a web address. So basically we go to like things like, Google, right? We open it up, and this is what we call the web. In theory, yes, this is the web. This is what it is. For us humans, right, what we can see or relate to is what we navigate via the client, right? Things like Chrome, Internet Explorer, Edge, Safari, whatever we have, that's how we actually navigate around the web. And this is true or factually what it is when we refer to the web. So technically, you'll be creating things like this, right? This is an example of what you'll be creating, right, as a full stack web developer. There are other fun examples, but like right now, these are the ones that I have just the client and the Google. Let's keep going. So we've just went, I hope everybody here, I mean, at least you're watching this, you know how to navigate the web, right? That's basically what this is. Assuming you don't know what I mean by the web, right? At least now you can see what the web is. So, from our little interactions that we just did, right? We went to a website, we typed in the name, and brought back something. So, how does this work under the hood? This is a summary of the first step that actually happens under the hood, and basically, this is like the procedure, right? So basically, your web browser, you point it to a domain name, right? The domain name is basically a name that is assigned to an entity, right? To anything, right? Like google.com, right? Here we have an example of channel o and o.com. So basically, what your web browser does is that it looks for that name, right? So you open your web browser, you type it in, right? That's the first thing you initiate it in a client, right? And then the web browser asks your computer or your domain DNS server, right? Domain name server or domain name service. It asks for, okay, who is channel o and o.com? And basically, what it gets back is an IP address. And that IP address is then sent a request. So your client, the web browser, sends an HTTP GET request to the IP address of the server. Basically, is the endpoint, and the request gets processed on the server, and the server sends back a response. So this is typically how a web interaction happens on HTTP stack. In the last slide, right, I spoke a little bit about some terminologies or technologies. So basically, let me explain them quickly. HTTP is called Hypertext Transport Protocol, and is basically how messages are exchanged over the internet, right? And basically, we'll go into details later, but what it actually does is facilitates how a client and a server communicate. In short, uh, in computer terminologies, when you say protocol, it means that it's a specific standard of processes and requirements. So once you fulfill that protocol, you can join in, right? You can be brought into the same environment and actually still use the same technologies to communicate. DNS is basically domain name server or service, and what this does is helps you look for IP. It's like a directory of IPs. So what DNS would do for you is that translate something like I don't know.com, right, into a physical IP, because actually everything finally talks on IP. An IP is Internet Protocol. We have version 4, and currently the new one is version 6. Basically, this is like your house address on the internet. So basically, every device, well, let me say every device, yeah, every device on the internet, everything that participates on the internet itself have to have an address. That's how things get routed from one point to another. When I say routing, I mean moved, right? So that's how information is being moved from one point to the other on the internet. You need the internet protocol IP address, right? And basically, client is anything that initiates or makes requests to a server. So in our case, right, we have the web browser, right? It could be another application, it could be a phone, client could be the lights, right? You have all those Wi-Fi lights. So basically, clients can be in a variety of forms, both software and hardware. Well, they all still run some sort of software on top of them. And a server is typically remote from you and is usually where resources are stored. So, in terms or in actual fact, is that a server terminology is basically a place or a set of locations, right, that we our clients request resources from. So everybody connects to it and asks for pictures, asks for web pages, asks for different type of things, video files, audio files, and co. And basically, and I mean, I have here like a common files that we have. We have the HTML, we have the application, JSON, XML. We'll get to know about all of this soon in further classes, but the main thing here is that definition of a server is where you go to request this information for. So the server service or serves, right, those data back to the client. So in this course, right, and this class itself is introductory to HTML. So what is HTML? HTML is hypertext markup language. It is the most common document type on the web as we know it in layman terms. Basically, HTML is very easy to learn. It's quite easy. And HTML is a standard, right? Such as HTTP, right? Hypertext transport protocol. But in this sense, HTML is actually a markup language. Is how we define content in a document. And this standard, that there is a W3 organization that actually writes this standard, and the current one that we have is HTML5, which, I mean, for right now, answers most of our issues with the past or previous versions. And what the standard allows you to do is that for as long as your client complies with the standard, your pure HTML code will be interpreted the same. Sadly, this is not really the case in the past. And right now, also, you might have some clients that don't fully, or the way they interpret that standard is a little bit not consistent. But basically, HTML5 is, the modern one, right? So Web 2.0, Web 3.0, HTML5 drove those changes, so we can actually do more and we can actually be more consistent. We'll get to learn more about this later on, but what we just need to know a little bit history is that right now HTML5 is on version 5. So how do you start with HTML? Actually, HTML, like I said, is hypertext markup language. You can actually create it as a document. You actually can use a text editor and create this HTML document as I will demonstrate soon. So right now it says open up a text editor so you can follow along. Open up a text editor quickly. So right now here I'm going to open Notepad, right, and I'm going to save it as an HTML, right? Open up an HTML file and save it up as an HTML document. So this is what I'm going to do right now. So I'm just going to go to save as. Alright, if you're using Windows, make sure you save as and also change the file type. I have an example here from past class. This will be my first HTML kinda. So this file, right, by saving my file like this is an HTML file document, right? It just needs that extension denoted as an HTML. And to prove this, you can actually go navigate to the document, right? So I have it right here. And once I open this file, it's going to open up in the same client, the default HTML client, as we've seen like Google, right? It opens up here. So this is an HTML file. Congratulations, you've created your first HTML file. But moving on, it was easy, and it's very easy. It's quite easy, but not so fast. As we can see, the document is really blank. It's empty. Yes, this is so because we haven't put any content within the document that we created. Well, HTML is structured, right? And we need to actually write HTML code within the document to actually make it functional. So we need to learn the basics of the structure. We need to learn the structure of HTML. So in HTML, everything is written as text, right? Like I said, computers computers understand machine languages. Humans understand text, right? You can actually read it. HTML is that kind of language, right? I don't want to say language because it confuses a lot of people in terms of programming language, but it's a markup language that we can actually read. We can actually look at the document and read it ourselves, and I will demonstrate this later on. So HTML content itself, right, are surrounded in tags, and tags are also text. But what denotes the tags is that you have this greater than slash and lesser than slash greater than surrounding the elements. So when I say tags and elements, well, tags are like the definition of the elements. Okay, I will define what elements is in a few, but the HTML tags are actually like what you write, and then the element is what that definition does with the content within it. So a quick example is this, or these are the basic tags that we have. In an HTML document, you want to create the first tag that says the doc type. Then you want to actually create an HTML tag, right? The HTML, the first tag that you want to put in your document is the HTML tag. So right here we have the HTML, and then we have the head, then we have the title, then we can see we have body, and then we have H1 and P. So basically what this is telling us, or what this is in the document, let me quickly explain, is that the tag itself is the definition, is what is written, right? You have the lesser than, you have HTML, and then you have the greater than. And each tag like that combined with a closing tag, right? So by definition, or the restriction of the standard in HTML5 is that you must close your HTML, right? So forming two tags, one with a slash with the same name and one without the slash, you actually create an element. So right now, looking at that, right, you have the HTML element that has an head tag, right, within it. So you have the head tag and you have a corresponding ending head tag, which itself it's an head element that has a title tag within it. Title tag that has a corresponding ending title tag is a title element. So that kind of explains the relationship between the tags and elements. But this is the key structure of an HTML document. So what we have here is that by default, you should create the HTML, the head, and the body. So what's the difference, right? The HTML itself is just defining documents. So HTML document, right? That's what the first tag is doing. Then we have the HTML tag that actually says this is where everything else will reside, right? Everything in that document is in this tag. So my content will be created within this. Then we have the head. The head is basically where you put meta tags, right? Not necessarily things that will show, but necessarily what you're telling the client. So you have meta tags, you have different other things that are defined, such as titles within the head tag. And what this will do for you is actually help the client interact with your document. Then we have the body. The body is basically what would be displayed, right? What's necessarily what will be shown, right, on the client, or what the humans will see. So let's quickly do an hands-on of this. I will go back to this document that we have. Where is it? Okay, this document, right? And start with the first element as saying. Let me quickly just increase the font here. Yep. So right now, uh, I'm just defining that as an HTML document, right? I'm going to save this and switch. Let me see if I can switch. Oops. I'm gonna minimize. Yep. Okay. So this is not what I want actually. Okay. So here I'm just gonna keep refreshing, or let me put this to the side. Does it snap? Just gonna put that to the side, and what I'm trying to do is actually have like a side by side view of what is going on. Come on, Windows. Just going to resize this so that the screen it can be visible on the screen. going to put this side by side. Oh, it's kind of like weird. I'm actually within a screen. So, oh, there we go. I said just now. Okay, so this is what I want to wanted it to do. So I want you to pay attention to the two sides, right? Over here, we can see we've actually added more to this, but we can't still see anything. Like I said earlier, this is just defining that as a HTML document. Next thing we want to do is, oh no, I have to uncheck this. Next thing I want to do is have the so right now, and also HTML5, except for the doc type, you really want to type everything lowercase. So right now we want to do HTML, oh, typo, HTML. Right, and like I said, you really want to have an ending tag to it, right? Once we've created this, we've said, okay, this is where all our HTML environment is, and you only need one of this on the screen. So next thing we'll do is to have the the, the two parts of the document. So we have the head, right, with the corresponding ed tag closing, which is required by HTML5, right? We are saying this is where all the meta tags are. And next would be the body, right, which is where all our visible content would reside. Okay, so basically we have the two, right? And since we have this two, let me quickly save it and refresh it here. Still nothing is showing because we still don't have content. We only have the tags. So necessarily typing this, right, in a text document, if you open this, you can print it out, right, you can see it, but in an HTML interpreter, right, a client, it can't actually understand, it can actually understand the HTML tags. That's why it's blank over here, right? I mean, just to show you what I'm trying to say, if I say this is a document, right, it's text, and I just put it up here and I refresh, I would see it here. So you can actually see this is a document here because this is a text. It's not actually an HTML tag, is not within any HTML tag. So the web browser will interpret it, right? This web browser will interpret it regardless as a text, right? But just to let you know that what we're actually typing in the document is there, but the thing is that it's really not yet a formal HTML document, right? It's been interpreted, and right now it's just blank. If I am to click this to say view source, right, as we can see over here, we can actually see that we have the document. It's quite small in the middle here. Let me just close some things. Well, yeah, right, we can see that we have the document here. It's there, right? It's not just visible because there's nothing yet concrete that we've written into it that is interpreted. Okay, so quickly I'll just go back to the, let me exit out of this, right? So it's blank, and like I said, in the head, right, we have meta tags, and basically an example is the title. You say, okay, this is our first, and then uh every tag, like I explained earlier, needs to be closed, right? So we'll close the title, and what we have here is this. Once I save this and I come back to this place, is that you'll see something has changed. Although a lot of people might not know what has changed, but right here you can see this is our first HTML document as the title of this tab. So basically, this is where this information is brought into, and the client sees it and puts it up there. Right now the document is still blank, so let's actually go and write some elements. We're going to start with the HTML tag h1. HTML tag h1 is so h1 is a header tag, and in this header tag, right, we have to have a corresponding closing tag, right? Once we do this and save it and we refresh over here, voila, it starts seeing stuff. This is a first example of an element in HTML. H1 is the tag, but the element is an header element, right? So the header element we have here is to make things bold. So you want to have the header, you make things by default, it's bold. If you don't have a header, the next thing you want to have is a p tag. A p tag defines a paragraph tag. So this is a paragraph. So this is a paragraph of text, and I can keep right. And then what you want to do at the end of the day is close it. And once we save that and refresh, you can see that there's like a little bit of difference, right, between the first one and the second one, right? And that is why we have the elements and we have the tags. They do different functions. They help you organize and create your content for your HTML documents, aka they are creating content for your web. So basically the HTML kind of defines where things are placed and how they are interpreted. So for example, if I have, or if I want, I can create another h tag, right, which is like a h2. So h2, for h2 is a header tag. And closing this out, saving this and refreshing this page, we're going to see something is different. The way h2 looks like is different from how h1 look like, and it's different from how the p looks like. So basically this is how we define, this is what HTML tag basically does. It helps you define how your content is organized, arranged on the document. So a quick reminder is that in your HTML, for things to show up in the body, for things to show up on the web browser clients, right, necessarily you need to actually put them in the body. And for other things that you want the HTML clients like the web browser to interact with, you put that in the header. For now, this is how we would go with it. So this is a quick example and getting our hands dirty with HTML file. There are lots and lots and lots of other elements. You have for example, you have this, right, which is a self-closing tag. And what this allows you to do, we can see it right now, it puts a line, right? So I want a line, I put a line, right? And so for example, I'm going to copy this and show you something quickly, right? I'm going to have a bunch of text, right? Repeating text. Save this, and what we have is this, right? It's a long paragraph, but let's say I want to divide up the paragraph, right? I have the br slash tag, and basically what that would do is going to cut and break the line, right? So basically you can put this, or think about it, the text is overrunning, you want to break the line at a certain position, this is what you put in there. So this is a little bit getting too advanced. We'll stop right now and go back to the slide. Well, this is the question phase. If you have any question, remember you can comment and write to me directly on the Teams for in a live class, right? And today, just to have a recap, is that we understood what HTML means, how the client interacts with the web, what the web is defined as, what entails to actually write a HTML document. It's quite simple and it's quite easy. For references, you have the class website, right? You'll be able to go there and see this video if you're not live, and also you can contact me and email me directly. And from this video, you have an assignment. The assignment is to list 15 elements or HTML tags that we've not mentioned today. And I want this to be submitted, so submit it directly to the teams. I'm going to actually put a notice up on the teams also for the assignments. And this concludes today's session. Thank you. Bye bye.